Welcome to The Favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Volume Podcast Network. Live from our Tommy John home studios, I am Chad Millman of the Action Network. This is our Sunday night episode. We will review the 5 picks we put into the contest to dissect why we left some games out, preview the early lines we already like for Week 18. There's a caveat there. Simon, I don't know about you. I've only seen 3 lines posted at this point because nobody knows who's doing what next week. I am joined by my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF, professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Chad, it's sad. We're already at Week 18, but at least it's every game on Sunday in Week 18. So we go out.
No, it's not. It's 2 games on Saturday.
Oh, did they do Saturday again?
2 Saturday games.
Scratch what I said, but still, At least we get not all these games. I couldn't do two games at 4 o'clock today. Killed me. I need a full day of Sunday games.
It was, you know what? It threw my whole day off. I just felt off. I was crabby. We are 1-2 on the day. We went 1-1 in our Saturday game picks, taking the Chargers, ultimately -6.5 in the contest. The Broncos +3.5. That was a real kick in the dick. We had the Panthers +8.5 against the Bucs this afternoon. We have the Falcons 3.5 against Washington tonight. The Lions 3.5 against the Niners tomorrow. No surprise, Simon. Favorites, I think, are 10, 11, 2, and 1 on the weekend. Starting with the Wednesday games, they are 7-1 today. Only the Colts lost as dogs, and they lost when the Giants won outright. This has been the habit. If you're going to be an underdog and you want to win, you just got to win the game outright. There is no covering as an underdog in the NFL anymore. Jesus Christ, I'm so fucking sick of this. Catch every episode of The Favorites live on YouTube. For those enjoying on YouTube, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. And now, new Bet365 customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code Favorites, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. We're going to get to the Eagles win. Simon is just reveling in the glory of the Eagles and Saquon and winning the division and getting the 2 seed. Even though we didn't bet the Eagles or the Cowboys in the contest, a lot of good vibes coming out of South Jersey and Philly today. So I want Simon to get his moment. But we'll get to that because we're going to talk about it next week anyways. First of all, Simon, Chargers in New England. I had to go to my mother-in-law's in the city on Saturday, which meant I was totally rushed getting our picks in before the 2-hour drive through the rain. So like we normally put our picks in on Thursday and we like to update before game time to see if there are better numbers. And we had the Chargers 4.5. We had the Panthers 7.5. When I logged into the Favorites contest pick site, the Chargers were at 5.5. The Panthers were at 8.5. I text you. I'm like, what do you think? I think we should just take the Chargers at 5.5, get the better number on the Panthers. So far, we're together, right? You with me? Okay, good. We do that. We resubmit. The line is at 6.5. We're like, fuck it. How often has half a point mattered? It didn't really matter, did it?
No. And that was basically it of the conversation. It was a bad number. We basically said, though, this year, no half points really affected us in this exact spot. We talked about the 2.5s had gotten us, but yeah, the quick correction. Our producer's going crazy, Chad. There are no Saturday games next week. It's all Sunday, like I said.
Oh, well, listen, I just came off watching the Lions Vikings, and they were showing a schedule with 2 Saturday games tomorrow. That's why I said it.
Yeah, internet and someone's lying, but
Okay.
No, he's right.
this
He's right. He's right. My bad.
Oh, all of a sudden, Chad Millman's right. Matt Mitchell is wrong. What do you know?
but yeah, you nailed this Chargers game. No doubt about it. Like exactly what you said was going to happen and in another life, I would have been on the Patriots, but this year I've learned that chalk is going to win and not to overthink the numbers on the chalk and don't fight the movement. I mean, literally every line that the favorites moved with, they basically covered, right? Like the Ravens went from 4.5 up to 6.5 by a kick. The Tampa Bay went from 7.5 to 10.5, 10
Yeah.
by kick. Yeah, the professional money has been coming in heavy on
The
these
yeah, like
favorites, and it's been hitting for them.
it's not even like injury moves. Maybe the Panthers was Chuba Hubbard and stuff, but that Ravens move, that was just money
Money.
coming in. It's just like it's truly been insane. Even the Chargers move on Saturday morning was money coming in. It's just been insane. The nice thing is, I had to spend the day with my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law, his wife, my wife. So like my best way to engage with the games yesterday was through the app. And as I'm walking through the museum and looking at a 3,000-year-old tablet that was excavated, I see the Chargers. They're up by 2 touchdowns. As I'm looking at the mixed media installations by some German artist,
Mm.
the Chargers are up by 4 touchdowns. By the time I'm eating Chinese, and my mother-in-law was saying how much she loved the string beans and the eggplants 85,000 times, I was getting a green check in the app. It was a glorious, glorious way to start the day. Sadly, the next few hours, Simon, Denver plus 3.5 at Cincinnati. Tell me you didn't feel like that was just excruciating. And then I will tell you why it was even more excruciating for me.
I love those games. I even like that game. That was exciting. That's why I love to gamble. It's like a back and forth game. We died 1,000 times. I thought we had no chance. We came back in, and I was like, okay, now we have no chance of not covering this, which probably happened 4 or 5 times. And yeah, obviously the end result sucked, but this year has sucked. It just sucks in dog. So I would say, yeah, if this was early in the season, I would still be hurting about it because this is our life now. My favorite are the people online. I see your posts being like, Chad and Simon can't say they were unlucky in this game. They had so much luck. Okay, we got lucky that a guy missed a 30-yard field goal in overtime. Has that happened in any other game yet this season? Like that cover, I can't believe that guy, when he hit that bar, I knew there was no way Joe Burrow was going to let him kick that ball again if he got the ball back. I was like, that man just had rage in his eyes. So, yeah, a game that was really fun as a bettor, but sucked. Yeah, like losing that excruciatingly that way, it was brutal. But yeah, it's like that 4th and 1 to Mims. Me and you again, we're dead 1,000 times. That was what, a 5% chance of working out for us. A 4th and 1, 8 seconds left, touchdown. It was absurd.
You know what's interesting? So, have you ever driven on the Major Deegan Expressway leaving Manhattan?
I probably have. Everyone's just got maps though. It's all
It
Google
is
to me. Don't
it
even know
is the
names of
most
roads.
dangerous, torturous roadway in the United States. It is Daytona. Only every driver is on their phone while blindfolded, and it was raining. And as we passed Yankee Stadium, Zach Taylor was inexplicably going for the touchdown at the end of regulation
I
instead of
know.
running out the clock
So
to
dumb.
to kick a field goal. And he had multiple chances to like run the ball, run out the clock. It wasn't like they were just at the goal line. Like they had, 1st and 10 with a minute 20 from like the 17-yard line. And at one point, we're just listening to the game on the radio. So I'm not even watching, right? At one point, my wife very kindly, very sweetly says to me, "Hey, how's your football going?" And that was right about when Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow scored the touchdown. There's about a minute 20 left.
Yeah.
I wanted, like, of course I said to her, "Oh, it's so fun." What I wanted to do was drive the car into the median. and say, if Zach Taylor doesn't bleed this clock, I am going to freaking lose it. But I just gripped the wheel. I said it's fine. And then you know what? As soon as the Bengals scored that touchdown, you say it's a 5% chance. I thought to myself, you get what you deserve, Zach Taylor.
That's
And
what I said too.
the Bengals have a terrible defense and gave the
Yeah.
Broncos a lot of time and a timeout to do exactly what they did. Um, I agree with you on this though. Like, how many times can we miraculously lose, win, and lose a game? There was so much clock management, fuck ups by Taylor. Sean Payton wasn't at his best either. Like, did not put his team in a position to hold on to the ball,
No.
run the clock. They couldn't stop T. Higgins, this vaunted defense everyone loves.
If
So
Denver would have had one first down in overtime, they win or tie the game, basically.
I know.
And that was his reason. Sean Payton said he didn't go for two there when, normally anyone would go for two, is because all they needed was a tie to make the playoffs in that spot. So I got his logic, but man, like if we went through the plays he called in that overtime, I think he had 4 running plays and 2 passing plays. It's like that's not going down trying to win the game. That was trying to play it safe and play for a tie, and that's why they lost that game. That was just, if Denver don't make the playoffs, that's the game that's going to stand. Obviously, they have the matchup next week against Carson Wentz, but that game was there for them to steal. The Bengals, like we just said, their defense played really well in that game, and then just gave it up at the very end there. And brutal loss, because it just felt like we were going to go 2-0 instead, like you just said, 1-1 to start our picks this week.
I feel like that's sort of for these picks, like it's sort of off on a bad path. Because the next game, Carolina plus 8.5 at Tampa. Shortly after we put in the picks, Chuba Hubbard out for the year. J.C. Horn out. We got it 8.5. As you said, it got up to 10. Like, we were kind of never in it. We were from the beginning. Like, they traded touchdowns. Then the Bucks, 20 straight points, 337 yards in the first half, 122 yards rushing. Baker was 16 of 20 with 3 passing touchdowns. They had 44 plays. The Panthers had 20 plays. What was encouraging to me was they're down 27-7, and in 2 drives in the final 81 seconds, they looked great. Like, it's 71 seconds. They had a drive where they went 5 plays in 21 seconds, scored a touchdown. The next drive, they went 4 plays and 20 yards, missed a field goal. I'm like, okay, second half, we'll have settled. We're going to compete. When you got an 8.5-point number, you got a shot. It's 27-14. Then they went out and allowed another 300 freaking yards and like another 150 yards on the ground, another 3 touchdowns to Baker. They gave up a blocked punt for a touchdown. I guess the good news here, Simon, after next week, we do not have to talk about the Panthers anymore until next season.
I'm going to miss them because honestly, I felt proud about Bryce Young and the Panthers in that first half. They scored that touchdown, get the ball back, and he makes a couple of huge big-time throws to Thielen and gets them into a position to get a field goal at the end of that half. And, yeah, they missed it, and he talked about it. Baker, second half, deadly. Like, that's the Baker I'm terrified to see in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If he's on like that, he can't miss, man. Him and the wide receivers, when they're in tune like that, obviously him and Mike Evans, but if the run game's going with Bucky Irvin, they're really a terrifying offense. And Bryce Young just laid an egg in that second half, right? He never could get any consistent drives, and they were just outclassed. So yeah, of all of our bets this weekend, I'm assuming that's our worst bet. Like, that was, like you said, dead on arrival, especially in that second half. They just had no push. We knew the deal. We knew the Panthers were an awful defense. We just said that we believed that Bryce Young would keep us in that game, and unfortunately he didn't. But it's a bad team in Carolina, and we saw the Bucks when they want to be. They're one of the better teams in the NFC.
So look, the lines for next week are actually starting to populate. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at them yet. I see them starting to come into the Action Network app. So good news, we are going to have some games to talk about next week. On the other side of this, Simon, can you name the best ticketing app in the United States?
Game Time.
That's right. It's our beloved sponsor, Game Time. Throughout this holiday season, I've been preaching preaching that one of the best gifts you can give, taking friends to events. You cannot beat the memories that come from experiences. I speak from my own experiences. It is glorious. It's one of the most important things I've been doing with my kids for years. We did it again during the holidays. It's a great way to spend time, including, by the way, I'm opening the app right now from my house here in Connecticut. You know, we love basketball here in the Millman house, especially college basketball. We are in the basketball capital of the world. And so we're going to go check out some Yukon hoops for less than $50. My favorite part about Game Time, the all-in pricing shows me the total cost up front, no surprises. No matter where you live, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code favorites for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code FAVORITES for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. So I do want to give you a chance here. By the way, now's your time to gloat, brother, because I had the Packers. You had the Vikings. This was our first head-to-head of the year. And boy, did the Packers just shit the freaking bed, huh? Like that was... Sam Darnold looked all world. Tom Brady, was just in love with Sam Darnold today. And he looked pretty amazing. And the Packers looked pretty terrible on defense until, well, they never stopped looking bad on defense.
Yeah, Chad, I once was you. I once did not believe in Sam Darnold, but I went to rehab, I got clean, and I found my savior, Sam Darnold. Never a doubt. Sammy D. No, it's exactly what I talked about. Something about Jordan Love, I just didn't trust. And I felt like in that game, I'm not saying they didn't trust him either, but there's a lot of times they just simply ran the ball. I don't know if they're trying to go for ball control or whatever they were trying to do, but never let Jordan Love, get into a rhythm where Sam Darnold, he had 30 pass attempts midway through the third quarter and 20 completions. They let him really cut it loose and they put it on his shoulders. And yeah, obviously the turnovers, by the Vikings end of the game, let Green Bay get back into it. But overall, they really dominated that game. And, we talked about coming into the reason I love that Vikings team was I just felt like Sam Darnold had been playing in these big moments and living up to the moments. And he did it again in this game where all the momentum had flipped. There's 2:18 left on the clock. And Sam Darnold has the ball. And basically Green Bay has 3 timeouts in the 2-minute. And he just needs to pick up 1 or 2 first downs. And he stepped up, man. It's crazy. He just keeps stepping up in these big moments. It really is something special. And the Vikings, I've owned it all season. I doubted them. Did not see this coming. And yeah, I was just joking with Chad before he came on. I basically bet 3 teams to come in last place. One was Tennessee. One was New England, the chalkiest one. I think they were favored to be last place.
Yeah.
And then one was the Vikings, which every time I look and see that ticket when I open up my futures books, it cracks me up that I even bet the Vikings to have the first pick overall. So Sam Darnold, I just never saw it coming. And I finally started believing it when he's had a couple big wins this year. I mean, that game last week against the Seahawks, that's a trap game. That number moved to 2.5. The books were getting tons of money. They shouldn't have covered that and won that game outright. And he just willed that team in that final drive. And that's mainly my main reason for backing this week. Again, the numbers backed it up. I had them as a -1.5 favorite. They win literally by 2. It landed right on the number. And, haven't had too many wins this year backing these home teams when they become a dog. Because at one point they were +1.5, this Minnesota team. And then I think you saw the same as I did when they announced Jair Alexander was out. That number did flip, I think, because of that, because how great he plays against Jefferson. And you saw it today. It was a huge deal. Even if you want to say Justin Jefferson have a great game, he's still in those big moments threw it to him. So, yeah, it's seriously surreal sitting here and being Minnesota right now as a 2-point dog next week is going to Detroit and has a chance to be the number 1 seed. It's fucking insane.
It's bonkers. I have been a huge Kevin O'Connell fan. I have asked this question on the podcast a bunch, and that line is moving, by the way. Detroit's up to, what does it say, -3 right now. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Still 2.5 at Donkey Kong. I won't say the book's name, but you know.
All right. I know it. So we've loved Kevin O'Connell. He's been great for 3 years now. And
I
last
didn't
year,
respect him. I didn't give him enough respect. You definitely were on it, but I wasn't
yeah,
there. But now I'm
last
just
year
like,
worked wonders with that
holy shit,
team.
he's great. Yeah.
Wow. He's just, but even in this game, I trusted LaFleur more than I trusted Kevin O'Connell. And I think it's because of Darnold. And I think um, I got bit by it for sure. LaFleur going for it on that fourth down instead of kicking the field goal. Jordan Love didn't throw an accurate pass. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, I think it's over. Like, I
It
truly,
wasn't though. That's the craziest part. Like, literally, it came down to 2 first downs.
yeah, but like, then you're in desperation. Instead of being like in a spot where I think they could have played toe to toe, head to head, and like they weren't trying to claw back points, they were, you know, desperate at the end of the game when Minnesota was clearly letting up. And then when Minnesota had to have 2 first downs, they got 2 first downs against a defense that couldn't stop them the entire game. So,
Green Bay needed it though. They were being talked about like they were, other than the Eagles, they were the other team really being
yeah,
hyped up right now coming in the NFC. And I think that brings a lot of people like just back down to earth where they are good, but I think something's been missing all season. And that game definitely magnified it. Like you said, Jordan Love did nothing until that fourth quarter.
nada, nothing. Truly astonishing the way the favorites continue.
It's sickening, Chad.
Oh my God.
Honestly, I
Oh my.
hate it. I hate it so much.
It's so frustrating because it's like, it's just boring. It's
It's
so
just
boring.
boring, and it's like if you're this laziest better, like we talk about, it's just been money, 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 money. You just, yeah. Why wouldn't you bet Josh Allen today? Why wouldn't you bet the Eagles against the Cowboys? Why wouldn't you bet these huge favorites? It's just been,
I
like you
mean,
said,
look at
covering
these
machines. Even
scores.
Miami covered in a blowout against Cleveland. Like it's just
20, but
unbelievable.
but look at this. Every single game this week. 29-10, Kansas City. Baltimore 31-2. Forget about the Seahawks and the Bears. The Chargers 40-7. Cincinnati, great game. LA wins by 4, opening number. Terrible game. Buffalo 40-14. Las Vegas 25-10. The Giants, good game. Tampa Bay by 34 points. Jacksonville, Tennessee, terrible game. Philadelphia by
But that was
34
another
points.
favorite that won and covered.
I know.
Jacksonville.
Miami by 17 points. Like, there were 4 good games over the span of 5 days of football. So incredibly frustrating to watch it.
Not if you bet chalk. This is the dream. So yeah, I'm happy for people not like us that, like the sports books. I can't wait to see what their numbers are come the end of the year. Like the
I was
money
thinking
line
about that today, too.
parlays, the teasers, all of it is just coming through.
You know it's bad when you're starting to think if October forced publicly traded operators to talk about losing hundreds of millions of dollars because of customer friendly outcomes. None of that has stopped. It's
No,
just
it's gotten
continued.
worse.
It's gotten worse and worse and worse. Um, Congratulations to you. Congratulations to all Eagles fans. Saquon Barkley, 2,003 yards. They've won the division. They did it today with some guy named McKean and a combination of him and Kenny Pickett. And the Cowboys sort of losing their, they lost their will. They just sort of did, right? Like Cooper Rush did his best. They didn't have the horses, don't have the talent, don't have the players. They did the best they could over the past 6 weeks. But we worried, like we grabbed the Cowboys, at +8 because we were worried about Jalen Hurts. Turns out nobody needed to be worried about Jalen Hurts. We also said we thought the Eagles would defense scared us a little bit because they'd want to come back and prove it, and that's what they did. How you feeling?
Dream season, honestly. Like the two teams I hate the most, Cowboys and the Giants, had just a train wreck of the season. Giants, on the same day we win our division, our biggest win against the Cowboys since most points we scored against the Cowboys, biggest blowout we've had against them in 16 years. First time we've swept them since 2011. Same game, we have the 9th running back in NFL history, Saquon Barkley, get over 2,000 yards. Giants lose the number 1 pick, and they won't get the quarterback they won, hopefully. Oh, my God. It was honestly, the Eagles fan, it was one of the best days. And you know the deal. Unless you have a ton of luck or Mahomes, you're not winning the fucking Super Bowl. It's just the way it is. So you have to enjoy these moments. It's so hard to win in this league and be good. And last year, honestly, it took me like 4 months to get over that collapse of that Eagles team. It was just the worst way to go out, losing like that. And yeah, the fact that this team is probably the most complete team right now in the NFC. I mean, we literally, not that we want to play with our backups, but the fact that you can put up 40 points with your second and then third string quarterback against the Cowboys team that's not terrible, but they did roll over and die today. It was just an amazing feeling. Like, I fucking hate the Cowboys. So the fact that they have a train wreck of a season, we kill the Cowboys, and the 2 seed, it's a nice spot. Like, obviously my dream scenario is Minnesota wins next week and they get the 1 seed. Let Detroit come to Philly for a night game outdoors. That's my dream scenario. Going to Detroit as Detroit's the 1 seed, I'll be honest, it's scary as hell to think about. It's scary. Yeah. Gifford, you were in diapers last time the Cowboys made a Super Bowl. Get the fuck out of here, Cowboys
Simon
fans.
is responding to the quote in the chat from our cowboy-loving producer Gifford, who just said a fucking parade being thrown for beating Cooper Rush. This is what it's like to work in sports.
NFC
Don't leave your
East
fandom at home.
champions. From now on, please refer to me that as Gifford. Yeah, it was just a great day. The fact that you beat a divisional team, I love how the NFL does it. Just stacks all the divisional games into the year. And it's just the same thing we just saw in that Minnesota-Green Bay game. Like, usually those are the dogfights when you're in a divisional game. So to get easy win like that, win the division, yeah, as an Eagles fan, Chad, I'm riding high. I've been drinking all day. Really, I don't drink for our show, but it's just so hard to win the division, and it feels so good just to be a 2 seed with a chance at a Super Bowl.
I'm so depressed about these favorites continuing to win and us continuing to bet underdogs that I almost ate sugar today. That's how upset I am. Almost.
We're
I
still
was
dodging
tempted.
bullets, though, as bad as it could be. We dodged the Saints. We dodged Tennessee. We dodged Green Bay. So it's
Simon,
like we
that's
could
true.
be sitting
That's
here
true.
at 1-4. We still have a chance at 3-2, brother. We're not
That's
dead
right.
yet.
And we dodged the Cowboys, like all that.
Yeah.
Should we tell people about my dream on Friday night before we get to the week 18
I
games?
would love to. I love dream bets. I love it.
So I don't know what's going on. I've never had in my life, it's a long life of passionate sports fandom, including a love for the Bears that has been reciprocated on very rare occasions. Okay. I've never had a dream about a team winning a game. I don't know what's going on because on Friday night, I dreamt the New Orleans Saints were going to win today. And I remember the very specific, I know, I remember the very specific moment in the dream. It's not like I dreamt about the whole game. It's like I was somewhere, something, and then all of a sudden I got like in my head the visual of the Saints winning, and then it was gone. It was like just a fleeting moment. And either in my dream, I talked about it so much this week that it implanted and embedded and came out in the dream. But even then, I held off on betting that game until about 10:59 this morning before we went on air for Convince Me. And Raybon said one thing that was like, yeah, it totally makes sense. Plus, the Raiders were delayed until, 4 a.m. this morning. So, of course, you want to bet the Saints today. So I pulled the trigger. Simon, for a minute, you were a believer.
Yeah, and I told you I had to bet it. If you give me a dream bet, I'm gonna bet it because I unfortunately I rarely dream. So, and when I do dream, it's just horrible, horrible nightmare. So when you came to me with a dream bet that hopefully was gonna be a winner, I'm all in. So we'll keep track of this. 0-1 on dream bets. Yeah, not ideal, but I loved it.
On dream bets. That is too funny. That's great. Well, we got to talk about some week 18 games.
Let's.
Such a weird week Like, I don't really even know where to begin. What are you seeing
Can you
here?
guys tell me? I'm looking all over for the Saturday game. Who is the Saturday game?
We don't know yet.
Oh,
The,
so the NFL is going to decide it. That's why it's not in the schedule yet.
yeah,
Okay.
nothing is
Okay.
decided. It's
Cool,
all,
cool, cool.
nobody knows where they're playing, or nobody knows what time they're playing or what day they're playing yet. We don't know.
So, like a normal week, I'll put down a couple. It depends. Week 18, I can get really weird with it. I might hammer some lines tonight, just off of what might happen with who might be sitting, who might be playing. I'm trying to get ahead of the lines.
Yeah. Like I I'm also trying to think about who might still have something that they absolutely have to play for, and who are they playing that doesn't have anything to play for. And normally you'd want to smash the team that has nothing to play for, but this year it feels like you want to go all in on the team that does. And like I'm looking at the Chargers -5.5 on the road against Las Vegas. Raiders coming off 2 straight wins. They're still going to be trying. But do you see Jim Harbaugh not trying in a game?
Yeah, and again, we didn't even talk about that much, but like the sliding glass doors of Lad McConkey going to the Patriots and the Patriots not taking him, their trade down instead, and the Chargers step in and take Lad. I mean, talk about finding something special right now with him and Herbert. Like,
Yeah, right.
they're really in rhythm. The kid should have 3 touchdowns in that game. So I'm with you. Chargers, they're a team that, they dominate bad teams. And we talked about that's why we like them against the Patriots. And yeah, interesting that they opened that at 6, though. Like, that is
I
giving
see it at
respect.
5.5 now, so it came down a little bit.
And I was going to say, let's give respect to this Raiders team after obviously 2 big wins. And, after last year, we saw Antonio Pierce had these guys fired up to end the season. So maybe that's his deal. He's a bad coach for 3 months, and then the last 2, he can figure it out. But yeah, I'd join you on that. I'd take 5.5 from the Chargers.
What about this is going to be a good one. Cincinnati 2-point favorite over the Steelers. I'm all in on the Bengals at this point.
I'll join you with. I'll definitely join you on it. But man, this is truly Russian roulette here at this point. It's like, isn't this finally the spot? Are we really betting on Tomlin to lose 4 straight? Because that's what this would be, right?
Yeah.
This would be 4 straight, I believe. So
and we'd be
every time as a dog.
We'd be fading Tomlin rah as a dog. I would not recommend anybody go heavy on these games.
I think the read's correct, though, to honestly chat on this one, to grab this number now, because this to me will go up.
I think so too.
Like,
I'm just saying,
yeah,
like we always do, but I want to emphasize it. Little tastes, like bet the direction you think the line is going to go. Don't go your full unit on these games. I like Cincinnati in this spot. I think Joe Burrow has this team revved. This defense is terrible, but we just haven't seen anything from the Steelers offense in the past month that makes us feel like they can actually do something to the Bengals that will turn this game into something that is out of reach for the Bengals to win the way they need to win in order to make the playoffs.
This is the perfect defense, though, for Russ Wilson to get right against.
It's the perfect defense for every quarterback.
Like, you look at the last 3 teams you played, that was a gauntlet. Like, this is Cincinnati Bengals defense we're talking about. This is a terrible, terrible defense. But I agree with you. Betting the Bengals here, to me, is just about the number. This, to me, is a good number. It's just 2. Like, if this was 3, I could be talked into the Pittsburgh. But at 2, to me, you're making the right read here that this is where you should put the early money.
We know Detroit, Minnesota is going to be a game where everyone's going all out. Line is 3 right now.
But like I said, there's 2.5s out there, and that's like I want to take the lines at 2.5. Like, to me, that's where I want to be at. Once you get up to 3, same thing. Like, I'm happy to take Minnesota at 3. This just feels like a field goal game, like a divisional game. It's a playoff game, and these guys are all going to be so tight. We just saw it today. Like, Green Bay never should have came back in that spot. We see weird things happen in these divisional games. Teams just get so tight towards the end of it. So it's all about the number here. Even though I take 2.5 with the dog. I mean, the book, that is very telling them open this 2.5. That is a ton of respect to this Vikings team. But To me, once again, this is the disrespect to this Detroit team where, yes, they're missing guys defensively. This offense is an absolute juggernaut. If they have the ball last, this game's tied. We're getting 3 with this Detroit team. We're winning by a field goal. So that to me, just that number feels right. 2.5, that's where the value is. If you want to take Minnesota, just wait, grab the 3.
I was really looking forward to seeing the number on Denver and Kansas City because we know Carson Wentz is going to be the quarterback. We know they're going to be sitting a lot of starters.
Oh, yeah.
That number is 7.5.
Mm.
The Broncos are favored by 7.5. Even playing Carson Wentz and sitting a bunch of starters. I mean, you got to play somebody for Kansas City. And so that number feels high to me.
It feels high, especially because this Denver team, not that Bo Nix hasn't played well down the stretch here, but he definitely is not consistent like he was early in the season, right? And like we saw it against that Cincinnati team. He had 2 or 3 and outs in that first half, and they basically had the ball, I think 4 possessions total, or maybe 3 possessions total.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you just said, we know the Chiefs. It's not just the Mahomes that's the magic of that team. It's the coaching staff, and they still have the coaches there. They still have to play a field team, right? They have 53 guys. They're going to make it work, finding the 22 to put on the field. So, like you said, they're going to sit a lot of important veterans. Obviously, Denver's line is going to be Wentz in a hell like that. We know that the Chiefs' offensive line starters aren't that good. I can't imagine what their backups are like. But I think what you're basically touching on is it's 7.5. Like, okay, if it goes up and me and Chad get burned here, we don't need to put more money on it. But just opening number, I would take the 7.5. That just feels a little too high. Too much respect for this Denver's team.
The last one we got to talk about. Carolina Panthers, 7.5 on the road at Atlanta. I do think they missed Chuba Hubbard today. Their run game was not nearly as effective. But the problem with this team was really their defense. I mean, I don't think they were playing defense. Every receiver was wide open. Bucky Irving was getting 6, 7, 8 yards before he would be tackled. If that's what the Bucs did, the Falcons' run game, which is so much better, I feel like we need to talk about the Panthers because we've talked about them every week, but I'm not interested in that line right now.
No, like you're right. I'm very tempted. I think you're right that I don't want to touch it yet though. I know you're coming from this Panthers team. Today just hurt. Like they just
hurt so much.
They totally rolled over in that second half. So smart by the book hanging the 7.5. It's incredibly tempting, especially if Atlanta pulls off the upset tonight. This quickly will get up to 8.5, 9, I'm sure, by kickoff.
And then we'll take the Panthers. By the way, Denver is all of a sudden up to 9 against Kansas City.
So that shows you that we were dead wrong on that. Professional money likes to fade Carson Wentz in that backup line.
Any games that I didn't mention that immediately stuck out to you, kind of not knowing a ton about who's playing yet?
Finally, after I think 10 weeks, I am taking Tennessee -4.5 against Houston. That's just Houston is horrible. They're going to be playing all their backups. I know how bad this Tennessee team is, but this is still their starters. So it's their starters going against a really bad backup Houston team that the only reason they've even been competitive this year is because of guys like Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud, obviously. So they're just terrible. I think Evan tweeted out they set the record today, right? Is it 2-14, Evan, against the spread?
Yeah.
Give me Tennessee one last time. I can't help it. I don't know about you, but I know that it's probably too raw for you to take. Actually, it's probably not. Would you take 14 Saints against the Bucs?
Yeah, I would. I was looking at that. Spencer, they don't have any players is the problem. Like they really don't. Like the Saints, Spencer Rattler, he tried his hardest today. And he was confident. He put them in a position to score some points, but they have nobody, like literally nobody who can make a play on that team. They don't have a dynamic running back. They don't have any dynamic receivers. Juwan Johnson as a tight end is okay, but not great. Cam Jordan is 85 years old. He's really their only defensive playmaker other than Tyrann Mathieu, who's also 85 years old. So the challenge is, what are the Bucs going to be doing? They're probably going to have to play for it. And we saw what Baker did today. You know, he's on a roll right now. So I'm not feeling burned by the Saints. If I didn't want to bet anybody who I've been burned by, I would just quit because it's been that kind of season. But they don't have any players. They've been playing their backups the way the Chiefs are, the way the Texans will be.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for a month. So I just don't know how they're going to score any points.
All right.
But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm wrong every week now.
Another one of my favorite gross dogs, Giants +4 at Philly. Come on. Please, Eagles, lose that game. Let the Giants get even better draft pick. But Drew Lock, when he's on, he's on. Like today, that first half, I think he had 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. And it wasn't even so much about him. It was just about Neighbors. And apparently Neighbors is playing for some records here. He's chasing Brock Bowers' reception record.
Yeah.
And I just love I love the mood of this Giants team coming into this game. Like, it doesn't feel like they're trying to lose, obviously. And the fact that this is +4, this has to go down. Like, this is going to drop. Eagles are not going to play anybody. A bunch of the guys have already said all the vets are getting rest days pretty much. And I know a lot of Eagles fans were hoping that Saquon would go for the record. I think he seems like he's content getting the 2,000-yard mark. He could use a rest week. So this is just trying to get ahead of the number. +4 just feels like way too high for an Eagles team that's probably going to be playing their third stringer. I don't think they'll play Kenny Pickett, who got banged up in this game.
Kudos to Nick Giffen, who talked about this game and taking the Giants and extolling the virtues of Drew Lock. He didn't say he was a good quarterback. He just said he wasn't as bad as he has been playing based on the numbers. And I laughed and laughed and laughed.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're so optimistic, young man.
No, he nailed it.
My son. And he nailed it. Drew Lock played exactly the way Nick Giffen was going to play. I don't mind that one. That feels like a fun one to do. We'll definitely have to have a conversation about that. The games that we will probably take a little taste of, I'd probably take the Chargers. You said Tennessee and the Giants.
What about your boy Mitch Trubisky for Buffalo against New England? -2.5
Hold
favorite.
on. The Bengals also, I want to take a little taste. What's the number in that Mitch Trubisky game?
He's -2.5.
He's pretty bad, though.
Did
very
he have a
bad.
touchdown pass today? I think he did for relief.
He did, but, it was like he threw a screen and then a guy ran, 50 yards. Some guy named Shavers. I'm sure Matt Mitchell knows everything about his.
He's saying Josh Allen will start it. You think he'll start it, though, Matt Mitchell, and then just come out after the first snap? Or
I think so.
Yeah,
I think he'll play a series. 3 handoffs,
He's a man
out.
of honor.
Mitch Trubisky goes in. Who are they playing again? I just lost it.
New England Patriots.
That's right. I don't know. I also feel like Patriots want to get as much goodwill in Drake May's head as he can get. And this was not a very good game against the Chargers. And if the Bills are packing it in, there's a chance for him to play decently against a defense that was already pretty bad anyways.
It's true.
All right. Well, it'll be an interesting show on Tuesday. We will have some lines that we're going to want to bet. We're going to have some games we want to talk about. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. And now new Bet365 customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code FAVORITES, deposit $10, place a bet for $5, get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Chat the time of our show on Tuesday. Are we going normal time? because it's New Year's Eve. Catch our next episode live on Tuesday on Action Network's YouTube channel. I'm stalling so someone in the chat can tell me the time. It's 11 a.m. See? 11 a.m. Eastern, Tuesday, Action Network YouTube channel, our special early time, so people can get out and go have a good time on New Year's Eve. Download us from Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars, say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until Tuesday. Love you.